Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg has been bending over backward for Donald Trump, and where does he go to rationalize it? The Joe Rogan podcast, of course. The backlash has been brutal, and I have the breakdown for you next. On the heels of Trump's win, Zuckerberg donated $1 million to the Donald's Inauguration Fund and announced big changes to Facebook's content moderation policies, including the elimination of fact-checking in favor of a similar system used by Trump's sidekick Elon Musk on X. And none of that feels shady at all, except the donation feels like cash stuffed in a plain envelope and handed off to a mafia boss, and the elimination of fact-checking sounds like words that could only be uttered in a world that exists under the thumb of Donald Trump. Please have a listen to some of the conversation between Joe and Mark, and on the other side, I'll share the outrage.
Like, how many people use it regularly?
It's 3.2 billion people use one of our services every day.
That's...
Yeah, it's wild.
More than a third of the planet. That's so crazy.
Yeah, and it's
almost half of Earth.
Well, on a monthly basis, it is probably half of Earth.
But moderating at scale is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
To try to get a human being that is reasonable, logical, and objective that's going to analyze every video, it's virtually impossible. It's not possible. So you got to use a bunch of tools. You're going to get a bunch of things wrong, and then you have also people reporting things. And how much is that going to affect things? You could have mass reporting because you have bad actors. You have some corporation that decides we're going to attack this video because it's bad for us to get it taken down. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on. I want to put that in people's heads before we go on. Like, understand the kind of numbers that we're talking about here. Now understand you have the pandemic, and then you have the administration that's doing something where I think they crossed the line, where it gets really weird.
We kept on trying to basically get it to be what we had originally intended, which is just, it's not, the point isn't to like judge people's opinions. It's to provide this layer to kind of help fact check some of the stuff that seems the most extreme, but it just, it was just never accepted by people broadly. I think people just felt like the fact checkers were too biased. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily even so much in what they ruled, although sometimes I think people would disagree with that. A lot of the time, it was just what types of things they chose to even go and fact check in the first place. So, I kind of think, like, after having gone through that whole exercise, it I don't know, it's something out of 1984, one of these books where it's just like it really is a slippery slope, and it just got to a point where it's just, okay, this is destroying so much trust, especially in the United States, to have this program.
In the interview, Zuckerberg went on to complain about working with the Biden administration and making hard decisions during COVID. And I'm sympathetic to the challenges he faced at that moment in time, but he also said fact-checking destroyed trust. So instead of creating a better fact-checking mousetrap, the solution was to blow it up? That from a man sitting on billions of dollars in one of the most innovative and technologically advanced companies in the history of the world? And now let's look at the big backlash that Zuckerberg received from social media and news media. No Filters Nick said, Mark Zuckerberg tells Joe Rogan that the Facebook fact check program went out of control and they will be moving to a community notes system similar to X. Do you think that Mark Zuckerberg has actually had a change of heart on free speech? Or is this just a businessman trying to appease the incoming presidential administration? And POK quoted Alexios Mazalarzis in saying, Zuckerberg didn't mention that a big chunk of the content fact-checkers have been flagging is not political speech, but the low-quality spammy clickbait that meta platforms have commodified. And Professor Scott Galloway had this to say to MSNBC.
This is again, nothing about placating the Republican Party and saving money and adding shareholder value. And what is so shocking, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, what's the point of having all this money if you aren't at some point going to show some fidelity as a 40 or a 50-something-year-old man that has the wealth of the GDP of a Latin American nation to actually standing up and showing some fidelity to American values? Bezos has got the yacht. Tim Cook, Jensen Huang at NVIDIA is worth more than Intel or Boeing. At what point? When do the men show up here? When do the Americans show up here? So this is not only incredibly shocking but not disappointing from Trump. But where's the leadership? Where are the men?
Fact-checking on platforms like Facebook served as one of the few safeguards against the rampant spreading of false information. During elections and disasters, unchecked lies and clear hoaxes can mislead voters and distort reality. And with barriers removed, political operatives and foreign adversaries can manipulate the algorithm to amplify their false messages. In fact, the role Facebook played in spreading conspiracy theories during the 2016 and 2020 elections is well known. The $1 million gift that Zuckerberg made to Trump was very generous, but because Trump thrives on misinformation to energize his base, undermine his opponents, and create an alternate reality where facts don't matter, Facebook's new policy will be a gift that keeps on giving.